Okay, so you know that feeling, right, when you're like staring at a massive to-do list
Uh-huh.
and suddenly like reorganizing your sock drawer?
Yeah,
Seems like the most appealing thing in the world.
totally.
That's what we're tackling today
Yeah.
in our deep dive.
Okay.
We're talking about to-do lists, how to actually get things done.
I love it.
With some help from this blog post we found about focus,
Okay.
especially at work.
Yeah.
And one thing that really stood out to me in this post
Yeah.
was this idea of breaking down tasks into
Mm.
smaller pieces.
Okay.
They even talked about getting a little like a dopamine hit when
Right.
checking things off a list,
Oh, yeah.
which I am so here for.
It makes sense.
Right.
It plays into like, our brains. They
Yeah.
crave closure.
Okay.
It's called the Zeigarnik effect.
Closure and dopamine, I am so there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even when we finish a small task,
Yeah.
our brain's like, reward time.
Nice.
Keeps us going.
Mhm.
The blog post also mentioned using this with the Eisenhower Matrix.
Okay, now that one rings a bell,
Yeah.
but maybe I need like a little refresher.
Yeah, so it's a classic productivity system
Right.
where you basically categorize your tasks. Like
Yeah.
how urgent are they? How important are they?
Okay.
So you've got your urgent and important stuff, you've got your important but not urgent,
Right.
and so on.
Okay.
Helps you prioritize.
So it's like instead of just write a novel,
Right.
it's like break down all the steps
Exactly.
and then prioritize those.
Exactly. Smaller steps, strategic ordering, you're golden.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is already making me feel like a little more in control.
Good.
But what about those times when you're facing a task, even a small one,
Right.
and your brain is just like, absolutely not?
I hear you. That's where you've got to bring in the Pomodoro technique.
Okay.
Work with your attention span, not against it.
So this is that like 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off kind of thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
25 minutes on, 5 minutes off.
Yeah.
Because studies show most of us,
Yeah.
we can't focus for hours and hours.
Right.
They need those little breaks
Total.
to recharge, come back fresh.
It's like giving yourself permission to like step away for a second,
Totally.
which I think is huge.
Right.
But I feel like you probably have some like pro tips for those breaks.
Oh, for sure.
Because I feel like if I'm like scrolling through social media for 5 minutes straight,
Yeah.
that kind of defeats the purpose.
Right, exactly. It needs to be intentional.
Okay.
The blog post really emphasized that.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
intentional breaks.
Okay.
So like stretching, maybe stepping outside for a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe quick meditation.
Oh, interesting.
Anything that helps you just reset
Okay.
without totally derailing you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So mindfulness instead of mindlessly scrolling.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. But even with like the best intentions, even with perfectly timed breaks,
Yeah.
sometimes it's those external distractions
Oh, yeah.
that really get me.
For sure.
Like
Yeah.
the phone, my email inbox, that
Well,
one coworker
Yep.
who always seems to stop by at the worst possible moment.
Yeah. They're like productivity kryptonite.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
blog post called them out.
They're the worst. But I'm sure there are things we can do.
Yeah, you can use it to your advantage.
Okay.
So one of the things they emphasized was this idea of environment design.
Okay, so like, are we talking like feng shui in my desk now?
Not quite feng shui, but
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
being mindful of your surroundings.
Yeah.
Even just having a designated workspace
Okay.
can make a world of difference.
Interesting.
It doesn't have to be anything fancy,
Right.
but just having a spot that your brain knows is for work
Yeah.
can be huge.
Okay, so maybe answering emails from my bed
Right.
is not the best strategy.
Might want to rethink that one.
Okay.
And then, of course, there's the classics. Phones, email notifications.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Just putting your phone on Do Not Disturb
Uh-huh.
during those work sprints
Yeah.
can work wonders.
You really can.
And then
Uh-huh.
with email,
Yeah.
instead of constantly checking it,
Right.
maybe set aside specific times
Oh, that's a good idea.
to go through it and respond.
Instead of like getting sucked in
Exactly.
every single time.
Yep.
Okay, so rearrange my desk, banish my phone, become one with my workspace.
Exactly.
I'm into it. But what about those times when the biggest obstacle is honestly just me? Like
Yeah.
my motivation just up and left?
Motivation struggles are real.
The worst.
They are. But this blog post had an interesting take on it.
Okay.
They were saying that motivation can actually come after you start working.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
That seems backwards.
it does, right?
Don't you need the motivation to start working?
You'd think so, but it's
Yeah.
like you sit down to work on something, even if it's small,
Yeah.
and as you make a little progress,
Mm-hmm.
you get this little boost of motivation.
Interesting.
like a positive feedback loop.
Oh,
In fact,
yeah.
that's the motivation loop.
So you don't have to wait for like this burst of inspiration to strike.
Exactly.
You just got to get started.
Just start.
Okay.
And then often you'll find that as you build momentum,
Yeah.
the motivation comes.
That's so interesting.
It's like we were saying before.
Yeah.
Our brains love that feeling of accomplishment.
Right.
The blog post also talked about positive self-talk,
Oh, okay.
like telling yourself, I can handle this, or I've got this.
So it's not just like a cheesy motivational poster.
Right. It actually works.
Interesting. So it's like I can trick my brain into being productive.
Kind of, yeah. It's about understanding those reward systems.
I like it. Okay, so instead of dreading my to-do list, it's
Yeah.
more like it's a challenge
Right.
to unlock those good brain chemicals.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And like we talked about, it's not just about the dopamine.
Right.
It's about working with our natural tendencies,
Yeah,
towards closure, towards those little rewards.
that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so this whole deep dive, it's been like a total shift in perspective for me
Good.
because it's not about like becoming some kind of productivity machine. It's
Right.
more about understanding like, okay, this is how my brain works.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I can use that.
Exactly. And the best part is, these are just starting points.
Right.
The blog post even said
Yeah.
the most effective strategies
Mm-hmm.
often combine a bunch of different techniques,
Okay.
and you kind of tailor it
Yeah.
to what works for you.
It's like creating your own system.
Exactly.
I like it. Okay. I'm already thinking like, I gotta rearrange my workspace.
Good.
Maybe invest in some noise-canceling headphones.
There you go. What resonated most with you from today?
Honestly, that whole motivation loop thing, I
Yeah.
think that's really powerful.
It is.
Because sometimes you just get stuck waiting for like the inspiration to strike.
Yeah.
And that's not always gonna happen.
Exactly.
Sometimes you just gotta
That's
start
how to start.
and see what happens.
Exactly.
It's such a simple idea,
It is.
but it's really powerful.
It really is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, everyone.
Yeah.
We went from like to-do list dread
Right.
to feeling like we can actually conquer those tasks.
Yeah.
It's all about working smarter, not harder.
Love it, Bit.
As always, we want to hear from you.
Yes.
What resonated with you from today's deep dive?
Yeah.
What are your go-to productivity hacks? Hit us up on social media
Let us know.
and let's keep this conversation going.